I don't have an art style. My style is so inconsistent. Okay guys, I was also there before and I still am, but I'm kind of figuring things out. So if you want to find an art style too, although I'm still struggling, I might be able to give you some tips so we can suffer together. A lot of people say that, oh, an art style comes naturally to you. You don't really need to purposely find it or whatever. Honestly, the case differs for a lot of people, but in my case and a lot of other artists I know, it's not actually 100% true. I think it's right that it comes naturally to you at some point of the time, but it takes an effort to explore and figure out what you want, and also notice your habits and apply that into consistent practice. So I'm just a little potato artist that I just figured somewhat of a style recently or some time ago, and I'm just speaking in terms of my own experience, so it might not be the same for everyone, and you can share yours with me too. So the first thing I think you should do is to know your purposes and your preferences. I have multiple art styles, and this one's for drawing anime or what I call just illustrations, and this one's for more of a traditional realistic style, and I just let myself go wild on this one. And this one is my animation art style. As you can see, they all have different characteristics, and my anime illustration style obviously is just anime, but I give it some individuality, which is what I'm comfortable with most of the time. And my traditional semi-realism-ish art style is here because I'm practicing realistic art, and I kind of blended it in with my anime-ish style because I'm not really that good with realism yet, but I'm still practicing. And my simpler chibi-ish style is for animations because I think I wanted clearer silhouettes and the lines are simpler, so it saves a lot more time for animation. And these aren't really, I wouldn't call them the end results of my art style because I think my style is still constantly evolving as I continue drawing. But so talking back to the purposes and preferences, so what do you want this art style for and what do you like? So for example, this chibi art style I have is for animation, and the semi-realism one is for practicing realism, so I can draw realism instead of only anime or cartoons, because I want to be more all-rounded in terms of drawing, so I can draw multiple things, and also exploring different art styles. So you have to figure out the purpose and find some characteristics. So for preferences, you basically have to observe what you like, and here are some directions for you, such as color choices, brushes, textures, and details, and there are a lot more. So it's good for you to have a platform where you can access, where kind of like a mood board or a dashboard of artists or art pieces that you like, so you can analyze them and what you like. Mostly I just check artists that pop up on my Instagram, and those I follow that I remember most of their account names already, so I don't really purposely save them in a folder or organize them, but it's a good practice to save up your inspirations in a folder on Instagram or Pinterest, or even you can just screenshot them in your photo album so you don't have to spend hours digging up their accounts and get anxious over not finding them again. And just as reference, my art style has inspiration from these artists, so you can check them out, and I really appreciate their art, so please show support to them too because I love them. And for step 2, which is trial and error, now that you have a direction on what you want your style to develop as, you can spend the rest of your time trying different variations. So here's some of my past work so you can see how much it has evolved. And I know my art was really weird in the past because I think I improved, but because I used to be really bad and I'm still really bad, but I think I got a little bit better. And it's normal to switch directions from time to time as well, because originally I wanted a very strong anime style, like a total anime style. I think I kind of switched up and I kept that for a while, and as you can see, I used to be imitating them, like how they color eyes and shade. But honestly, it can also be a mix and match of different styles. So you can use this person's brush and that person's eye shape and another person's eye coloring. And you can even invent some of your own and use stuff you've invented. And at this point, maybe not everything is original, but it's just the first draft, and your evolution will happen as you practice more and fix things. So maybe the end product will totally be different from the people you take inspiration from, but it's okay because that's your style now. And I think the most important part about finding an art style is letting yourself explore and try different things and figure out which ones you want, and basically just piecing things together. So I got this semi-realism style one day when I was asking my friends to give me something to draw, and they all asked me to draw them because, you know when you just like post a box and you're like, because you're like the art kid at school, and then one day you just want people to give you something to draw, or maybe you were having an art block, and then people are like, oh, can you draw me? And then you end up drawing people because like I realize asking people for requests is a really good way to solve art blocks, because I don't know, because some people really have random ideas that you've never thought about, and drawing them, like regardless of whether you want to do them, because I kind of draw things I don't want to, even they appear in my requests. Like some friends ask me to draw cars or even birds, which I normally wouldn't draw, but I think drawing some things I would not normally draw kind of open up something new for me. Like now I kind of know how to draw cars and kind of know how to draw birds, and maybe I can even improve, and I don't know. So basically I think reaching out can really solve art blocks. When you just like post a box and you're like, because you're like the art kid at school, and then one day you just want people to give you something to draw, or maybe you were having an art block, and then people are like, oh, can you draw me? And then you end up drawing people because like I realize asking people for requests is a really good way to solve art blocks, because I don't know, because some people really have random ideas that you've never thought about, and drawing them, like regardless of whether you want to do them, because I kind of draw things I don't want to, even they appear in my requests. Like some friends ask me to draw cars or even birds, which I normally wouldn't draw, but I think drawing some things I would not normally draw kind of open up something new for me. Like now I kind of know how to draw cars and kind of know how to draw birds, and maybe I can even improve, and I don't know. So basically I think reaching out can really solve art blocks. Okay, so back to what I was trying to say. So one time I was asking my friends to give me art requests, and I actually wanted to like improve, so I wanted to make my drawings look like them instead of drawing them chibi style and rushing through things. So I didn't limit myself on the eye shapes or the face shapes, so there was a lot of trial and error on the process that day, and I think most of the end results did actually look like my friends. And later I kind of consolidated that style when one time when I was playing for a trip, and I was drawing different people for fun on my sketchbook with that style, because there wasn't a TV on the plane. So I was really bored on the plane, and I just let myself draw. So it was a lot of practice, and I drew stray kids, by the way, guys. Let me show you. So there is a story behind every style, at least for me. So there would be one as you go on exploring different things. Just don't be afraid of trying, because you can just try more variations to see the results, and it gives a lot more choices for you to choose in the end. So here are some, I wouldn't say discoveries, but more like studying or stating the obvious, like some pathetic observations I've found so far, which are probably really obvious for some people, but I just wanted to say them to like organize them up or something. I used to never believe in this, but after trying it myself it kind of worked, is that brushes can actually improve your drawing. There's one of my pieces where I use an excessive amount of brushes, and here's the version with only base colors, and here's the version with all the brushes. Crazy, right? So I would say it's more of like textures instead of brushes, but you get the idea. So textures and pens are really important, okay? The brushes I use the most are 6B pencil, which is just one of the default brushes from Procreate, but I made some adjustments to it, and I almost use it for everything. And I also use this Narinder brush, which is also default from Procreate, but I made adjustments to it as well. And I mostly use it for my animations. I think I just use the 6B pencil or Narinder pencil, whichever looks better on a piece, so I don't think there's a really definite system there. But I know some people download certain brushes or even buy brushes online, but for me, I'm just using the Procreate brushes because I didn't really explore or anything. So for line art, I use the 2 brushes I mentioned just now, but for some artists, they use a really smooth pen fade thing, and some use like a bleedish pen, like a ball pen, and some even use lasso tool to fill in, which I think is totally crazy. And I've seen this more lately, and that some artists don't even do line art. They just clean up their sketches and start coloring, which for me it doesn't work because my sketches are really messy. I like using this chalkish pencil brush because I think it's cute, and I like the pencil texture because I think it gives off sketchbook vibes. So basically, you should just pay attention to your own habits and pick something that's suitable and fits your style. And for brushes, you can also use different textures to enhance your drawing. I once had this era where I kind of thought like using brushes were kind of like cheating, or more like catfishing people into thinking you have good abilities. But I tried it once, like just now the piece I showed you. I used more textures, and I think it really enhanced my illustration a lot. I don't think it's the skill, but it's more of like the visual effect on people. So here's the one when I filled in base colors, and here's the finishing product when I added a bunch of textures. So please believe me and just use textures. Some people like using a particular color palette consistently, and there are some advantages to that, so you'll get a more aesthetic profile page because there are similar colors, and it's also easier for people to recognize your art because you have your own signature palette. However, for me, I get bored easily, so I don't really like using the same colors consistently over and over again, and I prefer picking my colors freely because I want more choices instead of limiting myself. Maybe I do have some unconscious habits with color picking that are just my preferences, but I do recommend having a color palette for each drawing so your colors still match for the drawing. And for this drawing, I use these bluish purplish colors, and even for the skin colors, although I think I normally use orangish colors for skin, but I like the end product, so I think the most important thing is to let yourself explore. And some background info, I actually don't know anything about color theory, but I've been trying to learn lately, so I was getting advice from one of my artist friends who are crazy color theory learners, and basically she just taught me to be observant and try. So here's me adding blue to the reddish pinkish skin color shading. For me, I think it's easier to learn color theory through digital drawing because you can try a lot of colors, and if you screw up, you can just undo or delete the layer. And there's also a color wheel, so you can really know what colors you're picking out. The most important thing is to think about contrasting colors and use the color wheel. And don't be afraid to use new functions you've never used before, like whatever multiply layers and filters. And here's a summary. So honestly, the fact that you clicked into this video has already finished half of your job because you already have the awareness that you want to pay attention to your habits, and you've been drawing and you want to improve, and you want to consistently have a thing that belongs to yourself. You want a style that belongs to you. And there really isn't a lot of special tips for this because the most important thing is to stay observant and to try and don't limit yourself. And I'm still on the constant journey of figuring out my style, and personally I don't think the journey ever ends as you will continue drawing, but I wish you all the best and that you can find a drawing style that you like. Please feel free to share your thoughts into the comments and turn the comment section into a war zone because there are probably some problems we all face and we're figuring things out together and improving. Okay, anyways, this is the end of the video today, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!